You know, a lot of people, we get a lot of calls saying, oh, so-and-so has a lot of weeds that are growing, and they're about 3 feet high. You know, the foxes are running amok in the neighborhood. And, you know, this couch has been there, no one's picked it up. You know, a lot of that attributes to the fact that, you know, these are households that are making below, some of them making below poverty level. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks that that are struggling to make those hard decisions, like I was telling you about. These are the families that probably have been foreclosed on already, and that attributes to that.
And coming from that neighborhood, I'm sure that you have a personal, your heart goes out to the people in that neighborhood, and that's what I like to see, is when a candidate is actually listening to the people and is actually carrying out the job of representing where they're from. And oftentimes, especially in national politics, we tend to look at legislators, especially once you go to the Senate and the House, as being more figures rather than actually representing the rights and the needs of the people that they're supposed to, their constituents. And it's good to hear refreshing talk like this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to pick up where we left off with City Councilman Paul Lopez, and then we're going to take a few questions on the air and talk to Joe Miklosi, local City Councilman Paul Lopez from District 3, and Joe Miklosi from Progressive Majority. Gentlemen, one of the things that I'd like to do is, first I'm going to let Joe, I want you to talk about what the Progressive Majority is, and then talk about how you guys hooked up, so to speak.
Sure. Wade, just thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Progressive Majority is a 5-year-old political organization. We're based in Washington, D.C., and we're active in 8 states. And by the year 2012, we'll be in the 24 most competitive presidential battleground states. And what we do is we recruit, train, and elect the next generation of progressive champions or progressive political leaders at the local and state level. And what we do is we teach them how to develop a campaign plan, a fundraising plan, and an effective and persuasive stump speech. And we view those 3 things as the fundamentals of any successful campaign. And when you come across a natural like Councilor Lopez, it really creates a very strong team. And we were introduced to Councilor Lopez through one of our advisory council members, Mr. Lauren Martins, who is the executive director over at the SEIU Local 105 Union. And we have about 25 members on the Progressive Majority Colorado Advisory Council, and Lauren Martins is one of those gentlemen. And he introduced us, and it's been a great working relationship ever since.
Great. And so, Progressive Majority, it sounds like, well, I'm going to brag on you just a little bit, Joe. I was reading, if you go to the website, www.ultimatepolitics.net, you can see some of the great things that Joe's done in this state. And I'm just going to give you a little plug here, Joe. When you moved out here, what year?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. I moved out here 7 years ago. I came out on the House Majority Project in 2000. And anyway, one of the things I noticed is that you had the most winningest state results. Raise that hand up. Yeah, for 2006, taking 16 of 17 state house races. Is that right?
Yeah, that was back in 2004. That was one of the most satisfying jobs I've ever had when I worked for Speaker Andrew Romanoff, who I think is a great visionary for the state. And when he's done with his service in the State House, I really truly hope he works for the governor or stays active in politics, which I'm sure he will. But in 2004, I was the director of the House Majority Project, or the Democratic State House Caucus, and we had a net gain of 7 seats, which I think was the most in the nation, and we took back the State House for the Democrats for the first time in 30 years since Richard Nixon was president. And it's amazing once you have that majority or that power to be able to use it to create opportunities for other people. It was just it was a great evening on the election of 2004, and it's been a great run for the past few years.
Well, great, and we're so glad to have you in the state helping us out.
Thank you.
And really bringing people to the forefront, like Councilman Paul Lopez. So, looking forward, Paul, we heard a little bit about how you got hooked up with Progressive Majority. What do you want to see, or what would you like to see happen, and what do you think are some of the problems with my dog? All right, take it away, Paul. Here we go.
Dogs on leashes. No, I'm just kidding. Dogs of the world unite. What I'd like to see done, I mean, first let me just say that when we started this campaign, we went at a grassroots level. I'm a union organizer. I had a good team around me that were folks that understood grassroots organizing, and folks like Joe, who and the Progressive Majority and other progressive organizations and unions and people, and came out and said, you know, this is one that we can change, and we have a good opportunity. And so you know, we went into the campaign grassroots, and we came out grassroots, and you know, we went in, knocked on the doors, listened, did the old, you know, the old school way of doing it, and that's, you know, not going around any edges, going knocking on every door, listening and having conversations with everybody that we could. And there was a listening that created everything. Out of that, we assembled a platform of a few items that we had seen that were what people were saying. One is the better access to city services, and that's what I was talking about.
Bus lines?
Like, well, that's RTD, but I'm talking about trash pickup, code enforcement, knowing who to call for potholes, and getting alleys paved, getting sidewalks put in where they're needed. Those basic needs, like lighting, graffiti removal, and so, well, that's one of the areas. The other was making West Denver a safe community, and taking care of chipping away at the graffiti dilemma that's going on.
That's a big deal right now. If you guys are in the metro area and you live anywhere in town, you've noticed a rise, like I have, and I'm sure you have, of graffiti. So that is a big issue for homeowners.
Yeah. So it's getting people involved in those things, and you know, with the graffiti, it's being tough with the sentences and with the fines, and it's also looking at alternatives for our young people, and making sure that we're committed to those. Then the third thing was, you know, responsible economic development, not just economic development for the sake of economic development.
So instead of putting in a payday cash place,
right,
you know,
which are very prevalent. I mean, we're seeing our local economy in West Denver and our business infrastructure turning from the mom and pop shops to the high check cashing loans, the liquor stores, the adult bookstores. Now, you ask me, do you want to raise a family there? Do we deserve that? Do working families in that neighborhood deserve that? Or do we deserve grocery stores? Do we deserve the little corner stores that go get the milk, you know, in the morning when the baby's screaming and crying out loud? I need to do that, right? But you got to think of that in that way. And how does that compare to every other area in the neighborhood, in the city? And where do we need to focus? I mean, and then overall, all these little issues, and not that they're little, but all these kind of isolated kind of issues, you add them up and you analyze it, and you can't help but wonder, and this is what the residents would say: what about us?
why is this happening?
Why is this happening here?
Yeah.
Why is it that this side of town looks completely different from another side? Is this still Denver? And people had said, you know, I'm driving down Federal Boulevard, I can't believe I'm in Denver anymore. And you know, a priority needs to be established. Yes, with downtown. Yes, with our cultural district and everything like that. I mean, I'm very supportive of our arts and culture and downtown, but we also need to focus on federal. You know, federal's just as important as Spear in my eyes, and you know, so it's a revitalization of a whole neighborhood.